Hello and welcome to the Retained Recruiter Show. My name is James.
My name's Jo. Welcome everybody. Nice to see you on a very sunny day, hopefully, wherever you are.
Hopefully, wherever you happen to be.
In the frozen north.
So here we are in the UK and we've got some beautiful sunshine. Spring really feels like it's sprung, so that's really nice to get to. And we've got what I hope will be a great show for you all to listen into today. As ever, our intention is to give you some snippets of information, things you can take away and implement straight away. So, we're here to sort of help educate as well as sort of tell you a bit more about what we do. I've had a couple of requests from people to say, who are we really targeted at? And I just want to say, we focus and we work with, recruitment firm owners. So, that's our target audience. Now, if you don't own your own business yet, but if you don't own your own business, but interesting to learn about different things, then please do speak to the powers that be and ask them to get in touch with us if you like the stuff that we're saying, because we can help you with all of the things that we've talked about throughout the Retained Recruiter Show. So at some time, please do think about getting in touch with us. But Jo, what are we going to be covering today, Farrell?
So everything to do with sales, and actually what I'm noticing, a few strategically minded businesses are getting this, but what I'm getting from a lot of businesses whenever we talk about business development is the eye roll. Well, we've got loads of jobs on, which, as we know, doesn't automatically convert into invoices. So yes, we are talking about sales today, but we're talking about three very, very key things. The first one is, what do I need to do to make my sales more consistent? So as a business, as a recruitment business, we're very, very rarely consistent when it comes to sales or our consultants doing sales. So what can I do to produce consistent activity, consistent revenue in sales, help to prevent those peaks and troughs? Second thing we're looking at is how to get your firm in front of the right people. So what can you do to differentiate yourself? What can you do to stand out? If it is a candidate-driven market, how can you sell your candidates in more effectively? If you've worked for weeks and weeks trying to find a decent candidate, and then all you're doing is sending 2 bits of paper off to a client, wow, we need to up the ante. And then the third one is how to find hot candidates faster, which we might then think, James, isn't actually anything to do with sales, but it is, because candidates are so hard to find. Everything we talk about today, if you're in a candidate type market, apply these philosophies and these theories and these techniques to the candidate side of your business. And that's going to really, really help you to engage with better candidates quicker. So that's what we're covering today.
Well, some great topics for us to cover there, Jo. And I think the challenge is for people listening in or watching us today, or wherever they happen to be listening to this, if it's on replay, is the recruitment market is so busy at the moment. Again, here in the UK, statistics have come out this morning, with regard to how buoyant the recruitment market is. Obviously, there's wage inflation. It's not keeping up with actual inflation. We know what's going on in the world, so let's not get into that particular debate. But it is really one of those challenges that people have when there are so many opportunities out there, yet still people are struggling. They're trying to take on more and more work, but not actually thinking about what type of work they're doing. Because if you're a 360 recruiter and you eat what you kill, as you mentioned, Jo, earlier on in your introduction, there's the peak and trough mentality that goes on. So yes, I'm really busy at the moment. I've got plenty of work, and this is about thinking now is a great time to plan what the future is going to look like. Yeah, because it's busy at the moment. The next few months you're going to be making some great and fantastic money. Now, we want to help you earn more money, but more consistently, so that you have a stronger business for the medium to long term, not just the next 2-3 months. With respect, anybody can do that, particularly in a buoyant market. But how are you going to position yourself when things do start to, if they do, start to tighten up a little bit? But also, how can you become more effective and productive in what you're doing right now today? Because still here in the UK, the average fees are 15%. Now, interestingly, one of my colleagues, who's hopefully he will be joining us next week. His name's Darren Ledger, and I think he likes to call himself the no sugar coated recruiter. So we're going to have some interesting debate with Darren because he lays it bare. But it's interesting. We saw a very prominent individual out there in the world actually sort of say that he thinks recruitment companies rip people off and should be charging between 5 and 10%. Now that's just that's just not where we're talking about here at all. We're talking about people who should be charging a minimum of 20, if not 25, if not 30 plus. Now obviously that's a different market space and it's all to do with where you are in the world. But here for most people listening today might be in the UK. We're saying, how can you consistently charge 20 to 25 to 30%, and how can you work your way up that higher up that ladder when you've currently got clients who are, shouting at you to say, please only pay me 15%, or we're only going to pay you 15%. So we've got to help people differentiate themselves, Joe, so they can say to the clients and stand up with confidence and say to the client, if you want to work with me, because we have the choice as recruiters, who do you want to work with? You don't have to take every vacancy that comes to us. Then, this is the way I work. This is what I do. And Joe, as you've heard me say before to people, if you've got a bad client, look in the mirror.
Look in the mirror.
It's your problem. So let's start to choose clients. So where should we kick off, Joe?
I think that's a really good place to start. So what do I need to do to get more consistent at sales? Well, the first thing you need to do is find the time. In fact, that's wrong. You don't need to find the time. You need to make the time. Business development time is never just going to appear in your diary. None of us ever have a spare hour or a spare 30 minutes. So you have to make the time to do business development. But you've also got to make sure that it's time that is effective and is productive. And we talk a lot about when we're doing sales, about having a Dream 100. So this is essentially a target client list that you are targeting, because not everybody is going to convert in that first phone call or that first email outreach. So actually what we need to do is to be consistent and to wear people down over a period of time, but in a really nice way. Now, you're not going to be able to do that if there's 1,000 people on your CRM that you're trying to contact, or you've picked up 720 leads. I was talking to a guy the other day, 720 leads he's put on the system in the past few months. I said, what are you doing with them? And he gave me this sort of maniacal stare and was like, and laughed a bit and went, I don't know, because he'd just it was drowning in data. The problem with recruitment, I think, is we have all these bolt-ons, we have great CRM systems, but actually it means that you end up drowning in data. And the most we can hope for is to send out some spray and pray mailer and hope that someone bites off the back of it, which they're not going to. We don't buy like that. So we can't expect our clients to buy like that. So what are the 5 P's of really, really good sales? I've written them down because I've got such a bad memory.
I can tell you, I can see your eyes going down.
I know, I'm looking down here and I can't even read my writing. This is brilliant. This is true productivity at its finest. This smart working. Planning. You have to plan your business development. You have to position yourself as an expert in your market. Otherwise you sound the same as everybody else. You have to have patience, because not everybody is going to convert on the first call. So don't give up, wander off and find another client. Equally, you have to be persistent. You have to be persistent. You have to keep on going after these clients. And the last one is you have to have a process. You have to have a really good process. So you're not just scattergunning an approach. We don't have time to do that. And then that's when BD doesn't work. And then that's when we get the impression that we're either bad at business development, or that business development isn't working, or that clients aren't buying. And we are the creators of that opinion half the time, because we're not doing it as effectively as we could do. So I think those 5 P's, you could do a really good audit on your desk or in your firm and say, of those 5 P's, so planning, positioning, patience, persistence, and process, how many of those do we actually have? What's working? And if it's working, great, let's do more of that. If it's not working, let's put it in the bin or find a way of it working. Because none of us want to make 1,000 cold calls, do we? When they say the cold call is dead, I don't think the cold call was ever alive. It was just something we did, which was born out of a lack of strategy, really. So I don't think, let's not resurrect the cold call, but there's plenty of other ways to get in front of clients, aren't there, James?
There are, but I just want to go back there, Joe, and talk about, I think what we're talking about here is these are tactics, but it's actually planning strategically. And when we talk about the Dream 100, this isn't something that Joe and I have created, by the way. It's actually based on a guy called Chet Holmes. And the book, if you're interested in reading up about this, is called The Ultimate Selling Machine, I think, or Ultimate Sales Machine, Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. And it's worth looking up because it's a fascinating. And what he's talking about here, as Joe said, it's not about the spray and pray mentality. It's like, oh, how big is my database? And people, like you said, 720. And obviously we've spoken to people who've got thousands. I think it's great. And they're just pushing out there. Now, the problem is when you do spray and pray, you will get some bites back occasionally, but the reality is they're not going to be people who want to buy from you in the way that you want to sell. So therefore, you're on the back foot. This is about strategically looking at your marketplace and saying, okay, if I'm going to have a Dream 100, how do I classify it? How do I break that down? Who should fit in my Dream 100? And the other thing is, people say, oh, yeah, whether it's 110 or 90, listen, we're not talking about specifically 100, so no, imagine it, but it's not 500 and it's not 20 either. And the reality is, when we look to break this down, the 100 is fluid. It's not something rigid, but the way that we like to break it down, we like to break it down into 3 categories. And these three categories are, we call it the CCP strategy, when you're actually planning who do you want to get into your Dream 100. And CCP stands for clients, customers, and prospects. Yeah. So let's look at clients first of all. Clients are the people who will always buy from you because you become the trusted advisor, the go-to expert. They're your dream client. Now, they will not last forever. Yeah. And the reason why is people move on. People retire. I was speaking to one of our clients, Joe, just before Christmas. So what's that, 3 or 4 months ago? Just before Christmas. And he'd been working effectively his Dream 100 strategy, but he'd really only focused on his clients. And this question. And he'd been working with them for 10 years. And he phoned me and said, James, he said, I need to really rethink my strategy because most of my clients have now moved on or are retiring. Because we've done the job. The team's been fantastic. Moved it, on that point. Oh, apparently we're having an issue with streaming. Okay, just keep going.
Technology. Exactly.
There will still be a replay. So everybody's watching on replay today. But anyway, what he was saying to me is, he really just focused on those because when we talk about how in your Dream 100, how many C's for for clients do you need there? Well, it's probably going to be between somewhere in 10 and 20. Now, Joe and I, when we're in training, we talk to people. We say, listen, how many clients do you have? And we define a client as somebody who will come to you every single time. And most experienced recruiters come back to us with an answer which is somewhere between 4 and 10. Yeah. The newbies think they've got loads and they shout out 25, 30. So, well, no, there probably aren't that many. And you don't need that many. So 20 would be the maximum if you could get there. Now, think about it. 20 clients, we're talking retainers here. 20 clients who work with you just once per year. Most companies are recruiting once per year, at least. So if they came back to you, that'd be 20 deals you'd be working on. That's 20 placements, which is, what's that, 1.5, 2 a month. That type of number, which when you're working on a retained quality basis, that's probably about all that you can actually handle and all that you can particularly manage. So breaking down that Dream 100, first of all, they're going to be people who are already easy to put into your Dream 100. They're your favorite clients right now. You then move to the customers, Joe. What's your best description of customers?
Do you know what? Customers, actually, we don't tend to do this very often because we always like to either stick with what we've got, even if sometimes it's not the best possible clients that we could have. Hence the reason why you have a desk full of job, but not a board full of money. But actually, one of the things that we also always do is try and look for the new. What we don't do is ever look back. And I know they always say you should never go back, but that's not necessarily the case. So our customers are lapsed clients, your lapsed clients, your firm's lapsed clients, your lapsed clients from a previous firm. So these are clients that you've worked with at some point in the past, but aren't working with now. Now, it might not necessarily be a really positive reason why you're not working with them, but how many times have we ever gone back to lapsed clients and have had a conversation with them? There's a very good chance this conversation is probably going to involve criticism on the client's side of you or your firm or something that happened in the past. But you know what? That's a brilliant thing because what they're giving you is needs and wants and problems and needs and wants and problems. And that's what we want to do. We want to solve those needs and wants and problems. So actually getting on the phone, re-engaging with those clients that you've worked with in the past is a good thing because it means you can overcome those problems or concerns or challenges that maybe the client has had in the past. And also, what a brilliant story to tell them. We always say, go back to your lapsed clients because actually in that time, as a firm, you have evolved, and
Exactly.
If you are an iIntro member, you've invested in state-of-the-art technology. You have dragged your recruitment process into the 21st century, exactly where it should be, because you realise that previous recruitment services haven't been as effective as they could have been. So it's a brilliant journey. We've been on a journey. We've upgraded our service. We're brilliant now. We have a 96% retention rate. Let me tell you all about it. So it's a great trigger event, actually, a great way to get into your lapsed clients.
Yeah, I agree, and I think sometimes as much as it hurts me to say it, sometimes your face doesn't fit. So somebody who's been dealing with it in the past, the reality is now you are the right person. And I say if they take your call, it's going back to people where you might have had a job on. You may have had a placement 2 or 3 years ago, maybe it's just had a job on, and you're trying to create an interest to speak. So what we say is, in your Dream 100, if you've got up to 20 clients, you want to probably have up to 30 prospects, in terms of people that you're nurturing. Yeah, we're constantly looking to find ways to connect with these people. And Joe, we talk about the touch system, about how many touch points it takes to stay in, to get people to come through. This is about a content-driven strategy to help these people understand why you're different, how you're different, so on. And then you come to the final, the P of CCP, which are the prospects. These are the unknowns. These are, I don't want to say it's spray and pray, but these are the people who you want to have as clients. These should be your target clients, people who aren't dealing with you today that you'd like to have on your list. Now, remember, in any market sector that you're working in, you can't work with every client because you need somewhere else to go and fish. If you look at the top 10 clients in your industry, you can probably only work with 2 or 3 of them because you need somewhere to go and fish. So from that side of things, your prospects are the companies you'd like to work with. And when you actually start to put this into some strategy about how you're going to develop it, when you do win that client, and it might be 2 or 3 years away from today, it wasn't a fluke. It didn't happen by chance. It happened through strategic planning. You targeted to get that client. Sometimes you've got to wait for somebody to leave the organization because your face doesn't fit and they don't like you, or whatever it may be. But you're going to carefully address that client. Now, again, see, sometimes you will reach a point where you say, actually, drop that prospect. Keep your list tight is what we're saying. That's why it's the Dream 100. Focus on the people where you can make maximum impact and make a difference to those, and get your messaging across. So let's talk about messaging, Joe. What are the messages we need to get across to people so they understand why they should be talking to you?
Well, firstly, it's not about what you want to say, it's about what they want to hear. Think about what they're hearing day in, day out from agencies. Probably just very superficial features of a service. So, we've got a large database of candidates. We're a niche vertical market specialist. We care. We've got 20 years experience. All these things could be true and very, very valid. But actually, if that's the exact same as everybody else is saying, how is that client going to pick you out of a lineup and go, you sound amazing, you look amazing? So stop saying what everybody else is saying. Also stop going for the clients that everybody is going for. These huge, big organizations, the bigger the business, the harder they are to get in, the longer it'll take. And probably the lower the fees. You'll be on their PSL rather than them being on your preferred client list. So think about the types of clients that you're targeting. Don't be obvious. Don't go in the obvious places that all recruiters go. And then make sure that when you are thinking about the messages that you're putting across to clients, first and foremost, it's got to be different. Don't sell features, solve problems. We've spoken about this before in different sessions that we've had. If you're just barking features into emails, you're going to really, really quickly be considered as spam. So what you want to do is you want to engage clients. What we're trying to do is to motivate change. We're trying to stop them from doing what they're doing now and get them to use us. And that involves change, and it involves getting people out of their comfort zones and pulling them across to your way of working. That's not going to happen in one email, one mail, or one call. It's going to happen over a period of time. So think about those multiple touch points, but think about the messages that you're sending. If those messages don't have impact and don't create impact and emotion, the 2 times to motivate change are at the point of pleasure and at the point of pain. So think about mild discomfort. What could you put into your messaging that allows the client to feel slightly uncomfortable, that their current process maybe isn't as awesome as they once thought it was? So we're trying to elicit those pain points, subtle pain points, in order to engage and get them into a call to action. And also there's pleasure points, the pleasure of working with you. So start alluding to your retention rates, your hit rates, your success rates, your case studies and your testimonials at the point of pleasure, at the point of pain. Start thinking about what you're putting into your messages. 2 types of messages. Plowman is a huge fan of this, I know, is bespoke and broadcast. So think about, is this a one-to-one approach? And if it is, write it as if you were writing a letter to a specific person. Make it personal, relevant, and benefit-led. So you got bespoke. The other one is broadcast. So that's one-to-many. So actually, if it's one-to-many, think about it being, like a newspaper or a magazine, for example. You have a demographic in mind, and then you cater for what you think they're going to find interesting and valuable. So one-to-many and then a one-to-one approach. And do start thinking about the messages that you're putting into them. If you're lucky enough to have a marketing team, then you've probably got a marketing team of copywriters who can do all this for you. But actually, if you're like the vast majority of recruitment businesses and you're doing this yourself, I'd massively advise sitting down every month wouldn't you, James? And having a strategy session, a marketing strategy session. What methods are we using? What messages are we sending? And what moments are we sending them in? Because there's no point sending stuff out at like, making a bunch of sales calls at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, because no one's answering the phone to you.
I think we say that, Joe. I can't believe you didn't say your nice little catchphrase there, which emotion creates motion. Emotion creates motion.
Did I not say it? I think I said it in my head.
No, you're so close to it. You said emotion. It's good. But in terms of talking through that, in terms of that strategy, even if that strategy is with yourself, because what this is, we are in a content-driven world, and what you were saying there, Joe, is the message needs to be relevant. And it needs to say what's in it for me. So the benefit there. So the WIFM, WIFM, what's in it for me? You've got to put yourself in the seat of that person. Now, the challenge we have in both marketing and business development is, where do we get the time? We started off today. You've got to allocate some time. And if you've got a messaging and sequence marketing is something that you can put together, even if you're a one man business. This isn't about high-end CRM systems. When you've got a Dream 100, you can, if it's a broadcast or 100 or even personal messages, you can copy and paste, or you can do a mail merge in Microsoft Outlook and actually get a sequence going out there every week or whatever it is. But the best way is to get the planning and do the work all in one. So think about a 4 to 10 part sequence, because obviously we talk about the touch points, but just to get you started, 4 to 10 part sequence where you can actually write, 3 or 4 emails. Not war and peace. These have got to be short, sharp, informational, but desire. That whole thing about ADA, for those of you in Marketing 101, attention, interest, desire, and action. Unless you've watched the film, the Glengarry leads, whatever, Glengarry, Glen Ross, where they actually give a different acronym for it. But anyway, when you're thinking about your content, just make it, if I was reading this, would it motivate me to have a call to action, to click on that link, to click on that video, to pick up the phone or send the email, whatever it may be? So thinking about your content. So in that monthly planning session that Joe you're referring to, that's the time. Just write them out, get them done, part them, then you can carry on with the rest of it. This is this peak and trough mentality. If you don't compartmentalize and actually do the planning, then you end up peaking and troughing. Whereas a little and often is always best of everything. A little bit of marketing, a little bit of business development, a little bit of delivery, keeping it all going, rather than loads of business development, loads of delivery, loads of business development, loads of delivery. That's why, you have these peaks and troughs that go in the industry. So our job is to sort of say to people, how can you do that? Well, it's about having some structure in your business to think about how you're going to put that together. Having a strategy, you can, in terms of your clients, your customers. And by the way, I didn't define what a customer, as you said, Joe, that lapsed customer, somebody who's had a couple of dealings with you, they don't turn to you every time, not yet. You're still on the list. And then the prospects of the people who knows. But coming back to what you said, Joe, the problem is most recruiters who we listen to and speak with, they're chasing PSLs. Well, turn that around. Have your PCL, as you said. Exactly. How do they get onto your preferred client list? There's only going to be 20 slots. If you follow CC, there are only 20 slots, and you can't take more than that unless you expand, obviously. But then there's multiples of you. But as an individual consultant, who do you want on your list? That's why I said, if you've got a bad client, look in the mirror. So change that round. And I think it's a very common thing to say. We say this. When we're talking to clients, listen. It's great. I can only work with 1, maybe 2 new clients per month. I hope it's going to be you, but if it's not you, that's okay. There are other people out there, because the quality of the work that I deliver means that I don't sort of spread myself so thin I can't give you what you expect and deserve. And that obviously helps you with your positioning of your price later on in terms when you're talking about it, because it's a quality perspective rather than the spray and pray or spread yourself so thin you're working on 10, 15 vacancies, which you could be at this moment in time, but you can't deliver the quality of work on those numbers, not as an individual. So we've got to sort of think about that.
Yeah. No, do you know what? That's a really good point. And I think we alluded to it at the beginning. I was talking to someone the other day who's got 250 jobs. I said, what is that doing to your ability to sleep at night? You're 250 jobs and not filling any of them. And I always use an analogy, and I worked out what the term for it is. It's an orchardist. I didn't know that was a term. If you grow apples, if you grow and sell apples, it's an orchardist. Yeah. Of course it is. It's so obvious. If you're an orchardist, firstly, you can't rely on one tree to produce all the apples and make a load of money. So let's not just have one method of doing recruitment or doing sales or engaging with candidates and expect it to work 100% of the time with 100% of the people. But equally, if you have an orchard that's then the size of the UK and you're trying to farm all of that all the time, you'll knacker yourself out. You're over there and something over here is dying. And what you'll notice is you'll speak to a client, they'll tell you they're not recruiting. 2 months later, you'll see that they've recruited someone new, and you'll go, they lied to me. They told me they weren't recruiting. And actually, they probably were recruiting, but you hadn't engaged them in enough conversation over a period of time in order to get them to learn to know you, like you, and trust you enough to let you in. But also sometimes this happens typically when we send a mailer and then we're off trying to send mailers to the other 15,000 clients in our network. But we don't come back. We're like sowing seeds, and we're not coming back in order to reap what we've sown. So I think that's really important. You don't have to have a million jobs. You really don't. Like you said, you need to fill 1, 2, 3 a month. That's all you need to do. You need to work out the quickest route to money, the quickest and smartest way of doing 1, 2, or 3 deals a month, however that is. So obviously that's higher seniority level, it's higher fee, it's exclusive and retained work. But I think if you've got more than 10 or 15 jobs on your desk, if you're not prioritizing them, most people's desks look like this. I have all these jobs, and they're in like a horizontal level playing field. That's like going to the races, 10 horses in the race, and putting £1 on each one. It might seem like the most logical thing, but it's not the best return on investment. So don't have your jobs like this. Have your jobs in a league table. Most fillable, least fillable, and then work them that way. Do you know what? Once you do that, you'll probably take 7/8 of your jobs away and realize that they're not fillable, and then you go and do BD.
Yeah, Joe, I've just noticed that we're coming towards the end of today, but I just want to talk about something, the importance of the CCP strategy, that Dream 100 strategy, what that can do for your candidate attraction. Because when you actually start to work those, that's when you can start to, listen, we all do speculative marketing, but think about it for a moment. Again, always put yourself in the seat of your prospect, the company who you send that information to. If you're sending a little bit of it, scant information, I know it's a tease, but actually just think about, if you actually have a more thorough process where you know your clients and your customers and your prospects a little bit better because you're in touch with them, actually think about the information you can send to them. So one of the processes that we've developed at iIntro is something called talent alerts, and it's where you actually present a different level of information. Obviously we've got to protect the anonymity to make sure that there's no backdooring where people will come in and actually sort of steal your candidates. But actually our process says that when we do speculative marketing, actually we provide multiple layers of scientific and objective assessment to support the fantastic CV or the candidate that we've got there. So of course that includes video assessment, it includes behavioral assessment, it includes key competency assessment. These are the things that we put into our process that can help you win more work with clients through your candidate marketing. But why does it actually make you more attractive to candidates? Well, actually, you can become their career manager. You can become their Jerry Maguire, in terms of you can be, candidates are going to be your Rob Tidwells, the people that you sort of want to promote and actually work with in times to come. Because when we think about it, when we've made a placement, if we put together a strong shortlist, of 2, 3, or 4 candidates, depending on how much availability there is, there's always going to be 2, 3 or more candidates who don't make it, and hopefully put together a really strong shortlist. So we all love it when a class says, oh God, I could have employed any of them, but actually what are you going to do with those other people? And you've got to have a strategy to go out and market those people, not just send a teaser. You've got to use the information you've done. And here at iIntro, we, as I mentioned, we use multiple layers of scientific and objective assessment to present our candidates, to present our shortlist, to help our clients, the employers, make more informed hiring decisions. That's what we can do for you. And if you want to know more about that, please do get in touch with us. There'll be a link either coming up, flashing up on screen, or in some of the comment boxes below. Please do get in touch with us so we can actually share with you what it is that we do differently. Joe, we're coming into the last couple of minutes, so let's sort of wrap up with some, if they've got any more things you want to share with people, some takeaways for anybody that happens to be listening, which we appreciate.
Yes. So one of the things that we said, at the beginning of this that we were going to cover is how to actually find hot candidates faster. And probably the easiest way for us to talk about that is everything that we have just said over the last 25 minutes of, planning, positioning, patience, persistence, and process. The exact same thing applies to the candidate market. Only 20% of any market is active at any given point. 30% really aren't looking for a job. 50% are convertible, but they're not going to come to us. We've got to go to them. So we have to sell to our candidates the same way as we try and engage and convert our target client lists. You have to do the same thing with your candidates. Engage and convert your target candidate lists as well. The world has got, the recruitment's got harder, the candidate market's got tighter. It's harder to find good candidates, but it's not impossible. So you have to use a sales strategy with your candidates just as much as your clients nowadays. So that's the biggest advice I'd give anyone when it comes to candidates. And then with the market, when you get lean in lean markets, when you trim the fat off your processes and you're only doing the stuff that you know works, when the market goes buoyant again, you'll be top of the tree. You'll be top of the tree in that market. So now is a brilliant time to start upping the ante on your strategies and your processes and the techniques that you're working.
Indeed. Well, listen, Joe, we've had a few technical problems today that you and I aren't experiencing, but so you think everybody's going to be watching this on replay. For those of you like Helen Vane or Gary Williams who tried to log into the real one, we do appreciate the fact that you did try to get onto the live version. Hope you've actually enjoyed what you've heard today. Next week, we will be joined by a special guest, Darren Ledger, Sales Director of iIntro, otherwise known as the No Added Sugar Recruiter. And we'll be talking about perhaps the state of the industry. We'll get Darren's views because he's very forthright in terms of his views, and he'll get those across. Sometimes people say he's a little bit like Marmite, but a lot of people like Marmite. So I hope you will join us next week, same time, same place. Hopefully we'll sort out the technical issues. Thank you very much for listening. So, from me, it's goodbye and thank you.
And from me, it's goodbye and have a great week, guys.
Indeed. See you next week. Hopefully the sun shines.